piece figured out with a lot of work and a trip to Best Buy today. I think we have the right equipment, and we're live with Matt Quick, our Director of Training and Development, to talk about his
Hey, Mike.
career. Hey Matt, his transition, and some of the work he's doing with junior and mid-level service members and military spouses. So Matt, hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Mike. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so obviously Matt is also a prodigious uh, filmer or photographer of HireMilitary gear around the country. If you've been on LinkedIn, you've seen some of the pictures in the Oval Office and around the country as he travels around installations. But Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what brought you to HireMilitary?
So it's funny because I started out in the Marine Corps because I needed a good foundation. I moved to the Army, and then the Army I found a niche in the retention community, and that was funny how I spent 15 years in retention, and now I try to get into the separation or transition space. So this has been for me, an easy transition because all you have to do really is care about people, and that's all I did. So I cared about people with the retention piece, and now transition. I help out the same service members, but now it's not just Army; it's Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Army, and even Coast Guard, our sisters and brothers too. So it's really helped me everybody out. We've been there. We know what it's like to transition. So we just help with our spreading information out and help with the challenges that these guys are having and girls are having these days.
So let me go back there for a second. So you are a career counselor. You worked in retention. You tried to keep people in the Army, and now you're helping them leave. Doesn't that, I mean, would you say that that's kind of counterproductive, or would you say that that really has a long-term benefit or an immediate and long-term benefit to the Army?
I'm encouraging people to get out sometimes because sometimes part of the Army career counseling system is to help people to transition. That's what our counseling sessions are about. So we can't retain everybody, and that's what the Army is about. It's up or out. So I thought it was going to be difficult when I actually spoke. For 15 years, I left as a sergeant major at the top of the game. So I thought when I left the military, it was going to be hard for me to transition, but it wasn't. I found out it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to help people out. So when I saw a message on Facebook, I went, truth be told, I went through Mike's LinkedIn workshop here in Fort Bragg, and it was eye-opening. I found the aha moment, as he speaks about in his workshops, and I watched that ultimate LinkedIn cheat sheet. I figured it out with his assistance and mentorship through other people as well. So it was easy for me to transition and get into this space. Again, it's all about caring for people. That's what it's about.
Yeah. And I would one of the other things I like to point out is that, when we help soldiers or we help service members transition, we're not taking them away from the fight. I mean, we're not taking them away from the mission because the majority of them are getting out anyway, right? There's 83% of the
That's
force
right.
transitions after 1 to 2 terms. So, instead what we're doing is we're positively impacting future readiness. Every time a service member gets out and has a bad transition, nobody in their family is ever going to serve. And every time somebody gets out and gets a great job or gets the support they need or still feel a part of the community, like a soldier for life, Marine for life, then the rest of their family wants to serve as well. So, I hear a lot of senior leaders talk about how, we're trying to convince people to leave. And in reality, as we face these recruiting goals, what we're really doing is convincing people to join. What do you think about that? Well, I'm guessing we lost Matt's sound again a little bit. So um, tech's not 100% solved yet, but hopefully we'll get him back in here in a minute. So we were going to talk about everything higher military. So let me see if I can do here. Um, And we lost Matt. So until we get Matt back in, let's talk a little bit about, Matt, what Matt's doing at HireMilitary. So, as we start to progress with HireMilitary Live, once we get it all working without some of these, let's say, some of these challenges, these tech challenges, we're going to start engaging service members more often in this format with question and answers, tips and tricks, transition advice, and Matt's going to take a lead on that. One of the things is that a lot of LinkedIn, people have this perception that it's just for the seniors, and it's not. I mean, I think you've seen LinkedIn published a story that said that the vast majority, in fact, the fastest growing demographic on LinkedIn is the blue collar type jobs. They've been outgrowing everything else like that. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities in fields for maybe somebody that's not a senior. Doesn't necessarily mean everybody has to go blue collar. But let's be honest, there's people like different things. Some people want to be behind a desk. Some people want to work outdoors, and people look for different challenges. So Matt's been focusing his work on the junior and mid-level service members, trying to give them and create opportunities, give them advice on their transition. I think if you've followed him on social media, you've noticed that he's very engaged, he's very supportive, and he's very active. One of the other things he's been working on has been the military spouse piece. So Matt has been promoting military spouses with the use of his network and trying to create opportunities over the last, I think, 30 days, 45 days, and he's had a lot of success in that as well. So I'm going to pause for a minute and see if I can get him back in. Oh, there we go. Can you hear us, Matt? Let me check the audio. Everybody can see him, so we can hear. That. So left me hanging a little bit. I kind of told everybody everything now. What's your what are your final words? No, I'm just kidding. So so I just talked about the how in reality when we help people transition, we are not helping people get out, we're helping people join. Because when every family member, friend has a positive transition, feels a part of the community, their family wants to be a part of that as well, the people they know. So that's kind of where I stopped, and then I went into some of the work and why you're working so hard with the junior and mid-level service members. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I see people get out of the military each day, and I speak to about 4 or 5 on the phone each day, and many more through LinkedIn and messages. I see the challenges that they're going through, not just through leadership, but the hardship they're going through to get jobs, to do all this stuff. And people make the same mistake over and over again, is they don't begin the transition process until they're actually on transition leave. So we kind of back that up 1 year, 2 years, as long as we can get just start networking now, and you'll be successful on the outside. I see a lot of spouses that are supportive of their husbands and wives, and they fall in the same boat. They can network now and be successful when they're ready to get out. And I encourage people right now that have the good mix of skills and attributes to get out now while they can, if they can. But I see people get challenged. I'll call leadership twice a week. I'll call some CSM, some first sergeants, some command master chiefs. I'll call leadership to find out why their people aren't approved for DoD Skill Bridge. It's a good conversation, but I would encourage service members to learn more about DoD Skill Bridge or Career Skills, which is by the service. Learn about that, educate their own commands, their own leadership. That way it spreads around, and your last 6 months of service, you can get to a DoD Skill Bridge opportunity, an internship, and that's much more valuable than hanging around your office, your cubicle, or your motor pool. So this is what I do all day. I see these as people. So when you see, we used to tell a joke in the military and in retention. When people say they didn't want to re-enlist, they used to give them a Burger King or a McDonald's application. That's not how you treat people. Right. If you treat them right, they'll probably stay in the first place.
Hmm.
If they don't want to stay, hey, treat them right anyway on the way out, because they're our best recruiters from the next generation military.
Yep. So let me ask you a question. That's a great point. So when you call these commanders or these command sergeants major or the senior leader, enlisted leaders from the other services, how do those conversations typically go?
Not good at first, unless I know them. So I know quite a few command sergeant majors, first sergeants, and a lot of colonels as well. So once I get to know them, tell them who I am, I'll give my LinkedIn profile, and I'll talk a little bit about me. And then I go into their service member, and then I'll go into how they can help out, because one day we're going to be there for them. So
Hmm.
right now, you be there for your service members. That's all it comes down to.
Do you ever have to bring up the fact that they're going to be out in 4 months anyway, and they're really not that effective in the mission, and you can take care of them, or does that usually not come into play?
No, it does come up, and that's a hard pill to swallow for some of them. So what happens is it's more of a they're leaving anyway in 4 months, and they say, well, because of readiness, we can't leave them. So then I ask them, you probably built a bench. You have reserves. You have someone that can step up, that can do this job. So that conversation changed a little bit, because that comes down to training and development. If you
Hmm.
train your people to step up when someone, let's just say someone goes to school or on leave, who backfills them then? This is just a
Hmm.
couple extra weeks. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. And I have this same conversation with a lot of senior leaders. I particularly have a lot of senior enlisted and senior officers, O5 and above, that pretty much work up to the last day and say they can't leave because of the mission. And I have to talk to them and explain, look, that's the next person will step up, right? That's what the Army trains us for. When you're out,
They
you're
do.
out. The Army's going to keep rolling along, or whatever service is going to keep rolling along. And in fact, when you give that subordinate leader an opportunity to step up, you're actually helping their careers. So sometimes I think with senior leaders that it's actually fear of the transition itself that forces them to double down into the Army, devote everything into the last minute because they don't want to face the nebulous future. What do you think about that?
So myself, for instance, and I see a lot of sergeants major and E9s do the same thing. They work until the last day because they feel like they owe the Army or the military something.
Hmm.
They gave it to them already. They gave them 20 plus years. They gave them 6 plus years. They gave them the years. They
Hmm.
did more. They did a lot more than most people actually do. So they've got to let go as well. Eventually, this is it's like a divorce.
Hmm.
It's amicable divorce. It's inevitable.
Oh,
We're gonna separate eventually. Good terms. You pay me the rest of my life if you retire, and we'll just split up.
oof,
But
oof.
but don't look back though.
I don't know if that's the analogy I would have used, but it is fairly relevant. You're going to get relevant. Ouch. No, but I understand it completely. And I think it's important to understand that, if we're really going to say Marine for life, soldier for life, uh,
Yep.
airman, sailor for life, coastie for life, then we really have to start to build those communities and take care of people throughout their lives. And for leaders themselves, one thing I see is a lot of people don't uh, ask questions of their subordinates in the military before they're out when they talk about transition goals. I remember as a sergeant major asking some of my soldiers what they're going to do next, and like, well, we're going to go to school, which sounds like a fairly easy answer. And I would say, okay, oh yeah, which school, and have you already applied? And unfortunately, a lot of them just hadn't. We lost Matt again. Hadn't figured out how to do that, and they hadn't actually applied on time. So they were going to have to wait 6 months or more to actually apply for school, get in, start getting their GI Bill. And so by leaders asking their service members, their subordinates, what their next plans are, and giving them a little bit of that intellectual rigor, can help their service members as well. Are we back, Matt?
True. I'm back.
You dropped for a second. Okay, so let's talk about Let's talk about the work you're doing with military spouses. What the last like 45 days you've been on a tear. I'd like to hear a little bit more about it.
So we started a small hashtag, hire military spouses and mil spouse employment awareness. This began in October. Really, it's coincided with the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so it was fitting. And this wasn't something that I thought of myself. Again, I talk to service members each day, and I talk to spouses quite often as well. And I was on the way back from a trip, and I was speaking to a spouse, Christina Jumper, and she moved to a new area, and she was looking for a job, and
Mhm.
she gave me the idea to do this, and we just talked about it, and it rolled. So on 1 October, I said for every day of the month, I was going to highlight or showcase some spouse's resume,
Mhm.
what they do for a living, that kind of stuff. And it just snowballed. And
Right.
even though it was 1 day per month or one day a month, I had about 45 requests in the first 2 weeks. So it became overwhelming. So to say the least. So I cut it back to 1 day per week on Wednesdays now. So Wednesdays is Spotlight the Military spouses. And I know I've got the feedback. It comes back slowly, but 4 people were hired to jobs. 10 more had interviews, and really the rest of them, I don't get a lot of feedback, and that
Mhm.
would be helpful. If this isn't for self-aggrandizing, this is for if I can tell people what people get from this, more would actually give up. So I've got the next 6 weeks locked down for military spouses. But if anyone submits their name and information to me, I can get you in the loop. And if I have to go to 2 per week, I can do it as well. But we'll get them
Well,
out there.
now what about the week after this? Not this upcoming week, but the following week on a Wednesday. You highlight multiple military spouses in an interview like this. Do you think there'd be interest in that?
I think there would be. There are some
Yeah.
spouses out there that are articulate. They can do this, and they would love the opportunity. So yes, that's a
Have,
good idea.
Having interviewed probably close to 100 of them this year and hired most of those, I can tell you for a fact they are articulate, they are passionate, and they are fantastic members of the military community. They're the bedrock of the
Yes, they
military
are.
community, and just about every single one of them we've hired has been a rock star. So so let's put that down and like, hey, anybody down in, if you're a military spouse, active guard or reserve, let's not qualify that, and you want
Everybody.
to, yep, and you want Matt to interview you on Hire Military Live in 2 Wednesdays, please reach out to Matt, and he'll probably pick two, three, or four of them and do maybe 5 or 10 minute interviews. We'll highlight you to the community, and let's see if we can put a dent in this 24% unemployment that military spouses face.
And I'll go through the comments here later on and tomorrow, and talk back to the comments we had as well. So we'll
Oh,
figure this out.
well, look, I'm on right now. Now that I got all this tech, I'm dangerous. For a
Uh-oh.
guy in my mid, and Chris and I decided we're just going to say we're in our mids. We're not going to say what mids
Okay,
those
good.
are. But for a guy in my mids, we can actually take live questions now. So if anybody, I'm going through them real quick right now. Like I see, I don't know the answer to this one, Matt. We've got Ebit Nienti wants to know if a foreigner can be hired in the U.S. military. Um, I know they
They can.
can.
They must be. Yeah, it has to be a citizenship first. But that's a USAREC or a recruiting command question. We'll be happy to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, so just reach out to Matt. He might be able to point you in the right direction. And then I've got Antoine Logan saying he needs a job. He's a disabled vet. For that one, I would say there's the VBA, Veterans Benefits Administration, has been doing a fantastic job of providing transition assistance to veterans across. So I would reach out to your disabled veteran outreach professional, DVOP, or reach out to some of your local veteran employment resources at the state level, and that will help. Otherwise, Antoine, I would also say I recommend everybody, one, sign up for American Corporate Partners, acp-usa.org. I'm actually going to type it in right here. underneath Antoine's comment right there. And get a mentor from a Fortune 500 company for a year. That'll make a huge difference. Or they also have a whole bunch of small companies around the country. And then sign up for Onward to Opportunity. I would tag them, but they don't have their own page, so you can Google them. And I'm going to keep harassing them with that until they listen to me and actually create a LinkedIn page.
Not yet.
And I'm going to tag Mike Bianchi too. So if you think that they should have a page, let Michael Bianchi know, or just connect with him. Matt, any other tips for Antoine Logan, who has said he's a disabled vet and he needs a job?
What I would tell Mr. Logan is see your transition service officer at a DAV or VFW. These people are phenomenal. Mm-hmm. They can help out a lot. I was speaking with my personal one was Toshiba Narcissus, and she helped me out a lot here in Fort Bragg. But they can help out way more than just disability. They can help out with any jobs. But when it comes to high military jobs, come to us, and we can actually. We can figure that out with you. Send me a message, and we'll figure it out.
Perfect. And then we've got Fong, Phong. I'm going to say Fong Don, Doan. Just said that he's a software engineer at FAANG company and just transitioned to the Army a month ago. He said connect with him. He'll do his best to help you out as well. So scrolling on down, let's see. Here's one. Hey, we've got Eric Lawson. So he's a deputy director of operations in, I think, Massachusetts. He says, from someone who is a recruiter, what you just said is an interesting way to look at it. What do you think about that, Matt?
I'm not sure what he's referring to, but
you were retention. You weren't recruiting people. You were keeping them in, right?
Yeah. So as a retention guy, it was an easy transition. Again, just caring for people. So no matter what you're doing with them, just listen to the stories. Everyone has a story, and you can have either the right fit in the military or the right fit in the civilian world. We'll figure it out with you. Listen to the story. The people will tell you where they want to be, what they want to do. You just guide them along. It was simple, whether they're staying in or getting out.
There you go. Let me see if there's any other questions here.
Well.
So, when we talk about HireMilitary, and bringing people into these SkillBridge internships, how engaged are you with individuals that are registered for HireMilitary or moving over to HireMilitary jobs?
Well, for the DoD SkillBridge internships, I'm on the LinkedIn Messenger almost all day with people. That leads to phone calls. And if you're in the Fort Bragg or Fayetteville area or the Raleigh area, I meet people probably twice a week. I'm not a big coffee guy, but I'll say, let's have coffee. That means and listen, I go to Starbucks. I'm not proud of this, but I do get the green tea Frappuccino with soy milk with lots of cream. So that's something that people don't know about me. So I'll get that. So we'll hang out with them and talk to them.
Yeah. Let me just say, I think that violates the rules of no more than 5 words when ordering a drink at Starbucks. So just going to put that out there. I have a great idea. How about instead you invite them to outrun with you? And if they run with you, you'll help them.
All right. That's a good idea. I'll throw it there tomorrow morning. We'll see if anyone and they're takers. Now, if you're faster than an 8-minute mile pace, you run my pace. That's how we're going to work.
You're faster than 8 still?
No, I stay around the 8-minute mile pace. I don't push myself right now. I'm mid also.
So we've got Jason Willett commented in, retired Sergeant Major. He's out there doing big things out in Washington State. He said, military is temporary for all of us, so everyone needs to think about what's next. Also, transitioning service members need to find a mentor that has already transitioned. Junior transitioning service members often complain to him about the lack of guidance and advice they receive from their active duty leaders. These active duty leaders have zero experience in transition, regardless of how long they've been in the military. I think that's a fantastic point.
Good point. It really is.
We can, when you're still in, you can ask questions and you can tell when stuff doesn't make sense. But leaning on your people that have been in the military on the active duty their whole careers really isn't leading you down towards a path for success. So you really do have to focus on it. And look, I don't know how about you feel about this, Matt, but one thing I'm constantly having to tell people is you have to own your transition. You can't say no one taught me, no one did anything. The resources are all out there. It's up to you to put your work in to find the right career.
Here's a short analogy. So I got a ticket the other day. I'm not proud of it, but listen, I sped. I got caught, and I'll put it on tomorrow's post. But when I was pulled over, I haven't got a ticket in over 20 years. So when I was pulled over, the police officer, and I support police officers, and I earned my ticket. I did, but he gave me the ticket. He says, "Go to the website on this right here and figure it out." I was lost. I was like, "Well, what do I do?" So I started calling around to mentors or people that had tickets before me. They said, get a lawyer, do this, X, Y, and Z. So they were helping me through the process. So even the small things, when you transition, is probably a one-time thing. Getting a ticket for me in 20 years was a one-time thing as well.
Hopefully.
So find the mentor that's been there. So people that have already transitioned successfully, reach out to them. We are here to assist, and we're going to help you out. I don't care if you're a Navy guy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marine Corps. I'll help all Marines, number 5. But Army too, I'll help you all. Just find a mentor. Reach out.
Yeah. I think that's the key. You don't know what you don't know. And so finding someone that's been there and done that is the best way to figure out your path to your career success. So, you don't want to go to a nurse and ask for advice on how to get into the tech industry. So, it's the same thing. You don't go to your leaders and ask for advice on how to get a job in the private sector. Now, I will say in the government sector, some senior leaders can kind of facilitate that transition by connecting you to the right civilian leaders.
That's right.
But again, at the end of the day, it's all about who you know and building those relationships. So we've got Matthew.
And mentors.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, mentors will guide you along, but they're not going to give you all the answers. They don't know what you want to do or where you want to live. If you can figure that out, your path is always successful.
Absolutely. So, hey, Matt, we've got a question for you. Any ideas on how to put yourself out there better for the SkillBridge program?
Yes, this right here. So really, it's about exposure. I used to talk in the military about a pie chart or a pie method. What's more important in your career? Was it performance? Was it your image? Or was it your exposure? And people tend, well, my performance really was the most important thing for me. I said no, and studies show that it's exposure. So performance is what you do. Mm-hmm. Image is who you are. Exposure, in the military, people give it for you. You have to find out how to get exposure yourself out of the military. Mm-hmm. And one way to do that, listen, I wasn't an expert in military and transition until I got into the space. I'm still not an expert, but I just talk a lot about it because I'm involved a lot. Everyone's an expert in something. Just post about it. Short post. Give advice in certain areas. Your exposure will grow, and that's going to grow your network, and it's going to grow opportunities. Mm-hmm. So really put yourself out there by posting and commenting and getting yourself out there. Networking events. Mm-hmm. Whenever there's a networking event in your area, attend it. It's awkward at first. Walking around and shaking hands and having a drink, but it's fun. When you get out there, a couple hours, it's great. You walk with business cards or LinkedIn connections, and it's very valuable. Networking, get out there. I'm telling you, it's important.
Yeah, I would say that's the most important thing. You need that advice that can only come from someone that's been there before. You can read all the articles you want. You can do all the research. You can do everything right applying online. But at the end of the day, you're just not going to be able to find the right career success doing it on your own. And it drives me crazy a little bit because we've been so adaptable throughout our military careers. That's what makes us successful. And yet we hit this change that comes with the transition and we freeze up and we try to do it on our own, and that's what leads people down
True.
to a path of despair. So, what I would say about putting yourself out there better for Skill Bridge program itself, I would say start talking about it with your leadership early, right? I know you can easily, you could sign up on HireMilitary.us a year out and start finding the right opportunities, even start interviewing if you want to with companies. Some companies are willing to wait to find the right person, but I would say, have that conversation with leadership early at the company level, at the battalion level. Understand that, even if you're first sergeant or your platoon sergeant or your squad leader or whomever says you can't do it, they're not the final decider, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but the decision resides at the 05 level, local 06 level for anywhere in the country, right?
That's right. Now, don't think that a company commander or first sergeant are the disapproval authority. They're not. Talk to them about it. Disapproval must be by the company, the lieutenant colonel or higher. So educate them. I saw a question here, Mike, real fast.
Yeah.
From Thomas Ship. What opportunities do infantrymen have after the Army? I'm going to be honest here.
Oh, my God.
You can do whatever you want to do. And you're not an infantry guy. You don't have to go to program management. You don't have to go this. Just brand yourself how you want to. Get your certifications. Make sure you're educated in something and be what you want to be. There's not a big population or a big job market for infantry on the outside. There's not. But there are other things. You can do anything. So don't limit yourself by what people tell you. Go out there and figure it out. Talk to people. We'll help you figure it out. We'll walk you through it.
Yeah. Whenever I hear about that, look, the vast majority of transitioning service members don't want to do exactly what they did in the military. So for those combat arms or those people in jobs that they really don't see a direct transition to a private sector career, I tell them, think about what they enjoyed most about those jobs. If you've been in 6, 8, 10 years, literally you can go into HR, operations, logistics, security, leader development, training management, project management, program management, and then whatever your jobs were. And so really start to boil it down and try to figure out what you enjoyed doing the most, and then start talking to people in those fields. And using the advanced search criteria on LinkedIn, you can actually go in and find veterans from your branch of service in companies or jobs or positions you like, and just send them a quick note and ask for a short phone call. And I've seen tremendous success on that. And everybody else that I've had do those informational interviews has felt the same way. You are not the only person that's limiting you is yourself.
That's right. Don't get in your way.
So I've got, let's see, Jeffrey Hill says, I'm in a bind between going to school to learn a new skill, continuing my Army HR skills in the civilian sector, or searching for a mixture of both. I want to make a difference in people's lives. What do you have to say to that, Matt?
Really, you can do anything. So when it comes to making a difference in someone's life, you got to figure out what you want to do first. Mm-hmm. So if you want to help veterans, there's VSOs that are being hired all the time. Every county has probably 3 VSOs, one's in charge and 2 workers. So looking for your county outreach programs. Mm-hmm. Start there and build your way up. But do whatever you want to do and you like doing. Mm-hmm. But in the military, you're given all these things. You're going X, Y, and Z. You're going here, you're going there, and they'll tell you what to wear anyway. Now it's different. Now you got to figure things out. Figure out where you want to go. What do you want to wear? Make sure it matches too. Brown shoes are where it's at these days. But figure that out, and once you figure that out, roll with it.
Yeah. By the way, the brown shoes took me 1 year and 4 months. That's why I laugh. Now I have brown shoes, and a matching belt.
And brown belt too.
Yeah. So, but what I would say to Jeffrey Hill is, I'm big on this in education. Look, if you don't have a bachelor's degree and you want to be in a management position, you're going to be fighting upstream. Can you get a great job? Absolutely, especially if you have the tech chops. But otherwise, everywhere you go, you're going to be fighting that stigma of not having your degree. So I recommend getting a degree. Now, what do you get a degree in? When you say going back to school to learn a new skill, That's the challenge. What are you going to get a degree in? So I think the most important thing is, like Matt said before, is to network. Start going to these network events. Go visit these organizations. Get on LinkedIn. Start talking to people, and really ask the questions. I mean, if you want to go into HR, because HR in the private sector is different than HR in the military. And honestly, I had this conversation with Derek Johnson just this week to check in with him, as he's an HR consultant for LMI right now, former G1 Sergeant Major of the Army. There's a lot to learn, but once you get in there, it looks like we've dropped Matt again. Once you get in there, you could pick it up really quickly. So I tell people that if you think you might want to go into HR after the military, get on the phone with HR professionals, join your local SHRM groups, Society of Human Resource Management, and actually ask them, hey, what do you do? Like, what's your day like? What do you like? What do you not like? What are the differences between what you do now and what we did in the military? And then you'll know whether you want to do that job or not.
HR is not for everybody, but there's plenty of things in HR that anyone can do. If you're a first sergeant, platoon sergeant, training and development is HR. Benefits, compensation, retention, recruiting, it's all, HR is a huge field. So you can do so many things in there, but brand yourself into that area, talk to the experts, and find the people in the organizations like Wells Fargo and Justin Pearson. There's so many people out there that will help you out, that have been there before and are willing to help.
Absolutely. And what's funny is I was an MI Sergeant Major, and now I'm a People Advisory Services consultant. So I consult on HR. So everything from talent acquisition through HR transformation, organizational development, strategic communications, training, all the things we did in the military kind of relate, except I have some really sharp, really cool people around me. Not saying that wasn't the case in the military, but really excited to see that. So, you're not limited. And it looks like we lost Matt again. I'm going to say that's on his end, so I'm going to talk to him afterwards. Maybe we'll get him a better, we're going to have to get Matt a better connection to the feed, to the Wi-Fi. So we've got Dave Dennis, Matt, says his spouse just relocated to Hawaii. How can she network and get in touch with the right people?
So I'll tell you tonight, send me a message and I'll get her scheduled for a highlighting post. Other than that, we know people in Hawaii. We can send information, your wife's information out there. But like others, don't. I appreciate the support from the spouses, but have your spouse send the information to us. It's nothing personal. I just get it from them instead, and we'll put it out there. But there's many opportunities. Onward opportunity, Mike mentioned earlier. Everybody will help you out, but we can actually get you information out there, and when that happens, just engage on LinkedIn. That's a big thing. So if we put it out there for you, don't just fire and forget, engage.
Yeah. And I've interviewed quite a few military spouses in the year, and I've been big on trying to get them to network themselves. I have to say probably half of the military spouses I've interviewed have not had LinkedIn profiles. And so that's huge. Look, just about every Fortune 500 company, I think is on LinkedIn. They're sourcing talent on LinkedIn. This is the way that we build networks. It's the way that we engage. All you have to do is get on there, start connecting with people, start posting content every once in a while, things that are important to you. And even if you just put your profile in there the right way, I put that cheat sheet out there, it's for everybody, you can have recruiters find you. And one thing I tell military spouses is you don't have to list your volunteer experience as volunteer experience on LinkedIn. If you have gaps in employment because you've been moving, but you can list that experience as actual employment experience. What do you think about that, Matt?
I like that. And to that point, the question was earlier, how can they break into a field, HR field, volunteering? If you volunteer once a week with an AR or an HR firm or a company, they'll take you in on that. You'll sign a non-disclosure agreement, and it's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, volunteering can definitely be used as your job experience. You're not getting paid for it, but you're still working hard, and we know you're working hard too.
Yeah, and I would say SkillBridge is another way. So career skills program.
Yes,
If you can get in and get 4 months to learn and show them how awesome you are, that's a great way to break in. Another way, for me, the best way to break into HR is to start having conversations with HR professionals, and you'll eventually, as you start to figure out and start to shape your transition, opportunities will present themselves. I know John Snyder, Lieutenant Colonel John Snyder at Soldier for Life TAP has a mentor from American Corporate Partners, and he's been talking to her a lot. She's in HR, and there's potential for opportunities to come with that. If not, he's learned a lot more about what HR is in the private sector from that. So network.
definitely.
Let's see. So any other questions? I've got Ronald Harrow says, I'm soon to be a retired logistics officer. I really want to work in the civilian world. So then I think the important thing is that you start building those conversations, right, Matt? Start having those relationships.
Definitely. And we see people all the time that don't want to do the same job in the military and the civilian world. Just find the people with a similar background. If you're in the Army and Marine Corps, search for those people in the companies. You're going to find them. They're out there.
Mm-hmm.
Just talk to them. Find out how they broke into the system.
Yep.
It's not that hard. Once you show that your skills that you have, it doesn't really matter what you did in the past. They want to know that you can. Hey, just be on time. Don't outshine everybody, because military will do that at an occasion. But show your value, and they'll see it immediately. You'll get promoted from either it's entry level to up the top. You'll get promoted quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I'm going to see if there's one more question before we go. Let's see. I've got Mike Bianchi's commenting all over the place, so that's fantastic. One more question. I'm scrolling through.
Me too.
So, I mean, I think, as we go through this, I think the biggest thing to say is that, we look at it when we transition, we look at it as this crazy, difficult time in our lives, and it really is. And a lot of times we like to kind of rank or grade ourselves against our civilian sector, our peers in the civilian sector, or our competitors in a lot of ways, other candidates that haven't served. And say, well, they have this, or we have this, or they don't have that. And really, what I'd like people to understand is that when you're transitioning from the military or you're a veteran, we have access to resources that no one else has. There's 55,000 nonprofits out there. There's amazing organizations like American Corporate Partners, USO Pathfinders, Onward to Opportunity, Syracuse IVMF, Centurion Military Alliance, and the list goes on and on. Veterati, Candorful. I mean, there's just the list out there is crazy. And then you have all the government agencies. So like I said before, Matt talked about the nonprofits like American Legion, DAV, VFW, but you've got this direct hire authority for disabled veterans for most government agencies. Military spouses, just about every government agency has non-competitive direct hire authority out there.
They do.
You just have to really go get it. And I see that fire. One of the most fun transitions I saw was Brian Arrington, and I haven't seen him on here tonight. He's now working at Wells Fargo, but Brian went to this Centurion Military Alliance event. I think he went to one of the workshops on LinkedIn. He attended a session with John Phillips out in Atlanta, and he just dove in with a passion, and really started branding himself, focused on building relationships, found an amazing job at Wells Fargo, who's hiring veterans left and right, and now has started his own nonprofit to continue giving back. And I'll tell you, nobody handed that to Brian, with the exception of maybe Justin Pearson, who kind of seems to open a lot of doors for people anyway.
He does.
So if you want it, success is out there. Go get it. Nobody owes you anything, but there are a lot of people that want to help. So your success is going to be directly proportionate to the amount of effort you put
Your
in and the
involvement.
strength of your relationship. You got it, Matt. So go ahead. I'll give you the final word.
Well, transition is an anxious time. It's ridden with anxiety. But believe me, if you do the DoD skill bridge, if you find the mentorship, that removes or reduces the anxiety and the stresses of the transition. Transition can be an exciting time, and it was for me, was for my family. And I'm enjoying retirement. And one more thing about that, I work harder now in retirement than I was in the military, so I don't understand retirement anyway. But I look forward to helping anybody that needs help. Just reach out, and we're there for you.
Yeah, and I'm commenting right now. Jonathan McDonough said that. Let's see what his question was. I'm going to tag. I just tagged Chris on there. I know he's watching football right now, but he says he wants to set up his own CSP with a company back home. Not really sure how to sell it to him. That's the challenge. I really don't think transitioning service members are in a place to really sell
Yeah.
the career skills program, DoD skill bridge program to employers that aren't familiar with it, because you're going to run into issues with the Fair Labor Standards Act, whether it's legal, how we in process you, how companies can manage you from an HR standpoint. So I just tagged Chris Thorne. You can reach out to Matt Quick, and either of them should be able to help walk you through the process. And you can actually direct
Definitely.
the employer directly to them, or give Chris or Matt the name of the employer, and they could reach out themselves. We've got it's not just us. We've got
Yes.
Randy Rincones, Craig Metters, Derek Lewis, Sean Martorelli, Sarah Thompson, Elizabeth. We have this whole huge community of veterans and military spouses out there trying to help. So just reach out to us and let us help you do it, and that'll help a lot. Let me see if I got one last question. All right, we got Michaela Brown is going to reach out to you, Matt. I'm going to let this go. I think we've been on for a while, about 47 minutes right now. I don't want to go too long with everybody. But, Matt, I want to thank you for taking a break from football tonight and having this conversation. My Eagles don't play till tomorrow night, so I was
Go
happy
Giants.
to do this. What are you talking about? But hey, Matt, seriously, I don't know where you get the energy. Thank you for all that you do to take care of service members and military spouses. Look forward to getting you on 2 Wednesdays from now, highlighting some military spouses without my talking head on the screen, and really having an opportunity to continue making an impact.
And thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Sunday night, and hopefully your week starts out well.